And when you install Evoke, just like probably the dozens of different apps that you've installed on your PC before, you'll see a screen that looks very much like this. Evoke's navigation is down the left-hand side, and in the middle here is your work area. What you'll need to do when you start to use Evoke is decide what you want to do today. You can create a brand new app design if you want, and that will give you a boilerplate, an app base that is ready to integrate with whatever multi-value or SQL databases you want it to integrate with. It's ready to run on any device, from watches through to the largest desktop monitors. And it's got standard menu and screen options ready for you to enhance. Or you could go into one of the app designs you may have already created and evolve that further or finish developing it. Finally, there are a whole series of demonstration apps that Bluefinity have created and have deployed. We provide you links to these. You can go to those apps because they've been deployed, and you can use them. And when you find something you like in one of those apps, we provide you with the designs so that you can go in and see exactly how we did that. There's things like an online banking app. There's things like a sales pipeline app that we use internally, recruitment apps. There's timesheets and expenses apps. There's an example app that all of our customers use. It doesn't do very much except provide examples of all the different widgets and actions available within Evoke. And there's a very simple sales order processing demonstration that allows customers to buy or place orders with a company, and for that company to process those orders. And it uses a multi-value database. So I'm going to use that one as part of our demonstration today. Now, the next thing I have to do is decide which version of that app design I want to use. And most of our customers keep a live, a test, and a development version. But you can keep as many versions as you want. You could keep a Wednesday version, for example, just because today's Wednesday. I'm going to use the current live version. And what Evoke is doing now is it's downloading that version of that app design from a central secure Azure account just for this Evoke user. But it wasn't more than 5 minutes ago I told you that every single line of the source code of your app design was going to be on your PC and would always be available to you. And that's true. That's the generated app. The designs are held centrally in an account especially for you. And that's so you can have multiple people work on the same design if that's what you want to do. Evoke allows you to have a team leader and then team members working on the same design. And each team member's changes will be siloed so that they can test them autonomously and submit them back to the team leader so that they can be tested again if desired, and then integrated into the final app with a single click. Now, we've been brought into an area of Evoke that's all about the look and feel. But before I go into that, I'd like to at least try and put this app design we're going to talk about into some sort of context for you. Now, because these are deployed apps, I can go here where this is the app running on a PC. I can log into the app that we're looking at. You can see that the menu is over here because that's where I asked for it to be. It's a tiled menu because I asked for it to be a tiled menu. I could have asked for it to be a normal menu or maybe a minimal menu, or even could have had it as a more traditional burger style menu, which you'd be used to on a mobile phone. But I asked for it to appear like this. Now I've got in my workspace the ability to put in 3 characters of a customer's name, and I see a whole range of customers here. And each time I click on one, it changes my graph down here, my detail, and my contacts, and I've got a little menu over here. And that's lovely, but I'm sure you've figured out that that's just nothing more than a glorified website at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up that self-same app on both an iPad and an iPhone in order to look at that for you. And if the technology will allow me to, there we go. Got 1, 2, where's the other one? There. Oh, isn't it lovely when iPads come up smaller than iPhones? We use live devices for this part of the demonstration, so I will apologize if any of my friends send me any rude messages. I'll get them off the screen as quickly as possible. But what this allows us to do is to see the same app, and we're able to log in on both the iPad and the iPhone, and we're able to put the same data in. And at that point, of course, we'll be able to see that we've got exactly the same app. Except if we look closer, there are differences. There are 3 boxes down the bottom here on the desktop computer where they're tabbed together on the iPad. There's no room at all on the iPhone for them. So in addition to the menu on the end I showed you, there's a further menu. If I go back to that, there's a further menu that allows you to go to new screens that will show those boxes. If I turn the iPad around, you'll see that its screen size changes, and it too now has the old menu and a new menu to go to new screens. There are also other changes. You'll notice that this automatically has the iOS style input boxes, whereas Windows has the Windows style and Android has its own style. So these are the different culture changes that Evoke can accommodate. We do, however, have a number of customers that have a corporate style, and their view is that we don't care what Apple or Google or Microsoft want. We want a corporate style, and we want our app to look the same, whatever device it's displayed on. And we can also provide that with a single click within Evoke. There's so much more to this app, but I just wanted to try to give you a flavor and some context for what we're going to look at. So I'm going to go straight back into Evoke. Now, this area of Evoke is where you're able to set up all sorts of theme information. You can set up, for example, different color palettes. You can set up different fonts, different font sizes. You can go through and add different indentations, different default values. And in fact, you can even go down to granular levels to set up fonts, themes, styles for different types of operating system and device. You're also able to configure how you want your menus to appear, whether you want backgrounds that are animated, that are pictures, that are colors. In fact, there are lots of theme settings that allow you to give it the look and feel you want. But we also know that when our users start using Evoke, they really don't want to go in and set all of these things up. They love the fact that they can, and they will, but we'll give you a dozen different preset themes so that you can start off with one of these that is nearer to what you want, and then you can evolve it and save it as your theme. So once you've set up the theme of your app, you're also able to configure some other things. You're able to say, when a user logs in, what language do I want them to see my entire app in? And there are over 180 different languages that you can have different users or groups of users see the app in. Everything can be in the different language except data. Data always is displayed in the language in which it's been entered. As you would expect, Evoke also allows you to set up different security levels for different users or groups of users, and completely unique navigation routes through an app, either through the main menu level or through submenus, or as a result of their navigation through the app. These things are done through our access control, and the access control works in 2 ways. One, by grouping users together and giving them different security or navigation routes, or 2, using any data that's in your database or is entered by the user in order to create dynamic navigation paths through the app or dynamic security levels. Here, for example, I have some simple groups, and we've just named them customer manager, sales team to give you the idea. Users are placed into one or more of these, and in each instance, menu items or pieces of data can be set up so that they are either enabled, disabled, visible or invisible, or navigation routes are changed to accommodate the different security levels that your users will have. Once you've created an app design and are working on an app design, the next thing you usually need to do is to hook up to a database. If you have an existing database, you'll set it up in the repositories section. Now, here I actually do have a multi-value database behind this app. And so I can test the connection and see that I can access my multi-value database. I can see here all the different files that I have made visible or exposed to my database. You're able to access the database through .NET connectivity tools. MV.NET is one such tool, and you get a free copy of MV.NET together with Evoke when you are developing an app. Universe and Unidata have additional options of either MV.NET or the U2 data client library that allows you to use their connectivity tools to access the database. It's entirely up to you, and we don't dictate which one you use. What we will do, because this is the area that most people are concerned about when they start to build an app, is when someone takes a license of Evoke, we provide everybody with an environment review meeting that lasts about an hour and a half and initial user training. Now, the environment review starts with us creating an app together with you on your device, connecting that app to your database, and then running that web app authenticated against your database on your device so that you've created your first web app. The initial user training allows us to help you build out the first few screens of the app you want to generate. Once you've brought these in, and you don't need to retype entity structures within the app. You can, of course, import them from your multi-value database and accommodate multi-valued or sub-multi-valued groups within that. When you automatically import them from a multi-value database, then you will find that all of the dictionary items or properties that have been imported are linked to their appropriate attribute positions with whatever conversions are required. And this is the first of many ways that Evoke accommodates an existing database. Booleans in multi-value databases can either be true, false, Y or N, and I've seen A or B before as well, which was rather strange. Whatever your choice is in your database, you can set it up here, and therefore it will accommodate whatever your database is. Usually people want to know, that's great, but I use remote keys, local keys, and have a very convoluted structure. And Evoke's happy with that. We're able to not only accommodate local keys, but also remote keys so that you can link records as related data in the way that you're used to, but also support local subvalues, local embedded multi-value associated groups, embedded subvalues, etc., etc. Just by simply using them as pivoted entities within the app that will accommodate perfectly a multi-valued associated group or a single multi-valued property in your database. So again, I've mentioned it earlier, what our intention is and what we have found is the case with our multi-valued customers around the world is that you do not have to change your database. Evoke will accommodate it. So now you've hooked up your database, you can set out the rest of your app. You have data structures within the UI of your app. These have been imported from your database, but not all of them are imported. This is a first name property imported from the database and a last name property. But often in the app, you'll want to display the full name. And Evoke has a concept of calculated properties and also separately UI only properties. UI only mean they're not in your database. We're not going to save them when we write back to your database, but they can be used within the running of the app. This calculation is obviously a very, very, very simple one. In fact, it's as simplest. It's just concatenating the first name and the last name and putting a space between them. I could have changed the case, I could have trimmed it, but it's just very simple. But it's one of only a few concatenated properties that we have, allowing you to perform whatever arithmetic expressions you might need, doing whatever Boolean comparisons might be required, whatever collections you might need to add. For example, I might want to look at all the products this customer's ever bought from me, pick out the highest, the lowest, the average, etc., etc. You can set up conditional properties, making values return on the condition of another property. You can have related properties, static values, and of course string expressions and value conversions that allow you to convert almost any type of property into whatever you might want to use, even a date or time into a day or date number, depending on how you want to do it. And calculated properties are the first way Evoke is able to allow you to create an app using point and click, drop and drag, and option select techniques without writing custom code. So now I've imported these and I've gone through them. There's one more area that you will want to use within your app, and that is the concept of drop-down lists. Evoke supports static drop-down lists like this, where the user will pick one of a static list of items. These are classifications. We also have the concept of dynamic drop-down lists, and dynamic lists can be built up from any data anywhere around your database. So once you've set up your data, you'll then want to create a menu structure in your app. Here we've created a very simple menu structure. We can nudge them up and down in the list. We can make parents with child menu items, and we can go down to whatever level of child menu we want to. The concept here is to show you a simple menu. Each menu item is linked to a logical area of your app. We call them page series, but this is a logical area called customers linked from this menu item. But there's about 12 menu items here, including this parent with 2 children. And I'm sure in the app I showed you, there was only about, there were 6. So how come there's a different number here, including, of course, that parent with the 2 child menu items, in here to here? Well, it's that access control that I was telling you about earlier. Each user can be either placed into a group, making a menu item visible or not visible, or enabled or disabled, or any piece of data can be used to provide the same controls. And it's not just menu items. This functionality is available for any widget, any data field, any component, or any part of your app. But there's absolutely no way with my non-technical skills that I would be able to identify a remote piece of data that was related somewhere in my database. So in Evoke, wherever you need to look for something like that, there will be a build button that will guide you through it. And Evoke is full of wizards, allowing everybody to work on creating their app design. So even I can say, well, I want to look at the user that's logged in, and that record in my database has a relationship. I don't know how, local keys, remote keys, maybe there's some embedded multi-values, but to a company record in the company object. And I can go to that company object and I can see that there's a relationship, again, somehow, to my main contact in my contact object. So I'm going to go down to there and I'm going to find that there are properties. And one of those properties is a first name. And as simple as that, I've got the data structure. And I can now say, well, if that property, the data in that property contains my name, then this menu item will be visible. Once you've created your menu, you need, and you've linking to logical areas, you need to build out your pages. Now, these are the screens of your app. And here's the menu item we were looking at. Each logical area of your app can have one or more screens to your app. You can create brand new screens. You can link screens so that the same screen appears in multiple different areas of your app, multiple different places. Or if you've already created a screen, you can import it and change it. These screens are the UI of your app. Now, I've told you about the database. that you have and how we link to it, the data structures of the UI that we're going to use whilst the app is running autonomously. But there's one other data area that I need to tell you about, and those are the data sources. Data sources are data areas within the app. You simply give them a name and a shape. The shape will be the entity structure derived from your database object. Once you have done that, you are then able to select information into these data areas, or you're able to create new information in the data area and write that back to the database. You're able to display data, you're able to modify data, you're able to delete data and manipulate your database at the same time. All data can be paged, because if you try and send down 15,000 customer records to a tiny little mobile phone on the other side of the country, that could be a challenge. But Evoke allows automatic paging if you need for different devices. You'll have noticed that I've got another set of data areas down the bottom here. These are refined data sources, and they're very simple. They are simply a mirror of any of the sources of data you create up here. So you've got here a mirror of this one. Whatever happens in this data area also happens in this data area. So if all they are is a mirror, well, what's the point? Well, they allow you with a single click to add searching, sorting, and filtering functions to your data grids for your users. Let me give you an example. So the pipeline app is a sales pipeline app we use internally within Evoke. Happily for Bob, this is not the live one. This is a demonstration one. But there's far too many records that are being displayed here for me to be able to see the one I want to show you. Now, because I'm using the app, I'm able to adjust all of these different column sizes how I might want them on any different device. And that's just standard functionality. But I can also, because I have a refined data source, sort them by whatever way I want. And I can also search within them. This is the selected data from the database. So within the UI of my individual app, I'm able to say, I remember that there was a TH in the requirements. And that's refined it a little bit smaller. And of course, it was assigned to Bob. And it's brought me down to where I can look at these further. Whilst we're here, this is the example app. It tells you all about all the different widgets that we have within Evoke. There's well over 100, and all the different components, such as the videos, the calculators that you can bring in from the side, and the web apps. Here's the graphs that I mentioned, 4 different graphs here. These are made up from data, and this data is listed here, and it's making up this graph. In fact, if I change this to follow up, you'll see it actually changes the graph in real time. And of course, there are other examples for our customers, such as the 360-degree virtual tours. Here I'm in a shopping mall, and this shopping mall shows me that one of the stores is the Rolex store, and as that's my favorite, I think I'll go in there and have a look around, and I can see, oh, this looks very interesting. There's some very nice watches here. In fact, this one takes my eye. It's quite cheap. I think I'll add that to my cart and go to buy that. And of course, I can then come out, wander around, have a look through here and see that these are women's watches. Oh no, I've got my one. I don't want to get one of those. So in addition to walking around a retail store, real estate agents use this in order to show information in a house, but also to be able to walk around that house and see what's happening and do a virtual tour. You can even walk through closed doors into different areas of the house and see what's going on. It's a great way to case the joint, although I'm sure estate agents have already figured that one out. There are lots and lots of different options for these, including car tours, DIY stores, etc., etc. And we did mention earlier about the card views. So there is full card support, so that you can provide all the functionality and the searching and sorting and filtering for your users, just as though you were Amazon. Okay, so back to Evoke, and now we need to look at the different screens that are being built out. Before I move on, I've been talking for a long time, Mike. I'm sure you're probably reaching for the coffee cup and thinking, by the time this Brit finally shuts up, I'm not going to remember half of what he said.
Well, I've been keeping a log of questions as we've been going along, so I can either ask those now, or you can keep on going. We can save my questions for the end.
If we give it another 5 minutes, we'll get to the end of this section of the presentation, and I'll be happy to take all questions if you want. So,
Sounds like.
but if
Yep,
you've
let's
forgotten
do
some
that.
of the things I've said, don't worry, because every single screen we've gone through has had this question mark on it. And this
Mhm.
question mark, whenever you click it, wherever you are in Evoke, will take you to a help screen that is context sensitive. It's a help screen that relates to exactly where you are in Evoke, what you are doing, and explains to you what you need to do. The Evoke help covers high-level help as well as more detailed help, and there is a full user guide. This will take you through all the areas that we've looked at today: the themes, the data structures of the UI, your physical database and how that is mapped, the menus that you can create, the different logical areas of your app, and how they work with sources of data or data areas. There's the different pages or screens of your app, and finally how you generate it. There's an A to Z on the right-hand side, along with looking at all of the help by menu item as well. Now, we understand this is way too much to read. And so in order to help, we've videoed it for you. And we've put it into sound bites so that you can go and find the one you want and have a look at a video of what you need to do. Okay, so if we now go back and look at the screens, we're going to go into the screen we looked at in the demonstration app. And my screen's going to change quite a bit. What's going to happen in this area is we're going to see a representation of the screen that we're designing. Now, it'll take up as much or as little room as you have. So if I take away the menu, it now has got a much bigger area. And you can make it smaller or bigger as you choose. Over here, I've got ways to adjust this. Now, Evoke screens are made up of segments. I've put a red box around this one. And a segment can contain a data grid. It can contain a piece of data or a data record or a graph. It can contain a selection box, a piece of static data, an image, a color, and over 100 different widgets and components that are available to you. But if I look at the screen a different way, you'll see that segments sit inside segments, and you can embed segments to whatever level you might want to embed a segment. So you have segments inside segments inside segments. And those segments can go down to a single pixel if you so choose. So you can completely give the look and feel you want. Now, we don't recommend that you create that many segments down to a single pixel, but if you wanted to, you can. And that flexibility is what gives you the power to create the look and feel you want. Now, these segments get added very easily. You can drag and drop them, or you can add them, or you can move them around, or you can copy them and paste them. All technologies that you're very used to. And for each segment, you can create headers and submenus that allow you to navigate beyond this. You can adjust the default spacing and the default colors that the segment and templates will have that you set up in your theme. And if you really want to, you can even go down to the granular level of having different colors and spacing for different operating systems. Most of our customers stay at one level, but again, the flexibility that you can means that you can have the look and feel you want. You can set up additional navigation. You saw the grid row actions menu here, and you saw the additional menu here. And these come up at the end of each line or on single records as well. This one uses our click actions. So when someone clicks on one of these menus, it invokes Evoke's component menu. That means that whenever an action is requested, if you can provide a sequence of actions. Now, there is not time to go through our component library today. This is all part of the training. And I did mention a little bit of training is required. But the flexibility of this component library, including conditional statements, allows our customers to build full function apps without any customization whatsoever. Once you have created your navigation, you saw how the boxes adapted. You can take control of standard adaptations if you choose. In this case, what we were doing was taking control of this big box down the bottom and saying that when the width of the screen is less than 800 pixels, and we have every screen size boundary available on the market today, or the height goes below 640, then we'll either merge them or hide them. And because there's a little height and width indicator up here, you can take the width down and you can see the adaptation firing. If you take the height down, you'll see it disappear. If you make the screen bigger, you'll see it come back. And there's a full set of adaptations, again, that we'll go through in the training that allow you to adapt your screen however you may choose to and however you may need to. And that's great, having the adaptations. But sometimes there's just, well, no exception for seeing how your screen will look on, say, an iPhone 10. So I can create an iPhone 10 here, and I can rotate it to see how my screen will adapt when it's rotated. And I'm still in a live design. I can carry on designing in this way if I want. Everyone always wants to see how their let's try and get to a different tab. Everyone always wants to see how their app is going to look on a phone, on a watch rather. So here's how your app will look on Apple's large watch, and we can rotate that as well. I like to develop using standard browser technology and a size, but everyone's different, and Evoke gives you that flexibility. Now, when we look at these different segments, each of them is linked to a source of data, those data sources we looked at earlier, and is structured with a template. The templates, like this customer list, are simply set up and you pick which properties you want to display. With each property that you have, you're able to define a widget type. Now, again, this is where you have 100 different widgets and everything you might need, and the training will go through this. But we understand that there's a lot potentially to learn. And so what we've done is we've extended the help even further. And every time you want to use a different widget, you can go directly to a part of the help that will tell you in great detail every single step of that widget and all the dependencies through the rest of your app and the rest of the design for that widget. Now, we understand there is way too much information here. It's intentional. We don't expect you to read this. Our users use this as a skim reading aid memoir if they ever forget. And of course, it's not just text boxes. In fact, it's all the different types of widgets, such as your graphs, such as your labels, your static text, your checkboxes, your images, and how you're going to use pictures, how you can work with those, how you can add zoom, etc., etc., etc. So once you've configured your templates and your data sources, and you have used widgets in order to select from your database using standard selections through your data basic to collect data that will be automatically created by Evoke in Unidata Data Basic, you're able to have a screen that operates the way I showed you. Now, there are so many other things that I've not had a chance to show you in this demonstration, but I do want to show you how you can change something. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this menu, this header, to total tools with an S?
Total tool supply.
Supply, okay, supply. And now I've got the opportunity to cancel those changes or to save them and commit them back to the central system. And you can see that I have this here. I'm going to go to my web app generation. I've already said where on my computer I want 100% of the source code of my generated app. So all I need to do is hit this big green button. And what that's going to do is it's going to validate and verify my design for me, telling me about any warnings or errors that I might have to investigate and providing me a route through the investigation of them. Now that's complete, I can see that I have a brand new Visual Studio solution that is needing to be reloaded because Evoke has updated it. Here you'll see all of the source code of your app, but all I'm going to do today is to rebuild that solution. Visual Studio will go through a standard compile, and now I'm going to run it. Okay, so now I don't want to run it. Now I'm going to go back to where I was working with it before, and I'm going to refresh that app. And I'm going to try and bring it up again on my iPad as well. And as these load up, pull me up an iPad. There we go. I can now log in. And if I log into both of these, I can put exactly the same data in again that I put in previously. Oops, hang on. There's the iPad. Oh, can't type. And it's exactly the same app that's running, except as you can see, I've now running the brand new version of the app, and it really was that easy. And that's why we included it in the demonstration. As I said, there is so much more I would like to have shown you, and hopefully the training can do that.